What's up, folks? It's your boy Coach Ty back at you with another one, and in today's video we're going over programming for beginners. Now, creating a program can be a very daunting task. You've got one influencer telling you to do one thing and another influencer telling you to do the total polar opposite. So we're not going to go over opinions as usual. We are going to go over the research. So let's get straight in. Oh, and by the way, I have a program for you at the end of the video. Let's get straight into it. Here we go. Let's begin with the foundation of any program, which will be volume. Now, we've got two considerations when it comes to volume, and that is the amount of sets per week that we're doing for each individual muscle. And then we have total tonnage, which is weight times reps times sets. Now, the amount of sets per week is what we'll be primarily focusing on during this video, because that's what we're looking at when we're creating the program. Total tonnage is what you want to keep up with throughout the course of the program to make sure you are progressive overload. And that is also the best way to know that your program is effective and that you are building muscle. Couple quick notes on this before we get to volume recommendations. One, you should always train to near failure. And I said near failure. Going to total failure will not induce any more muscle growth than going to near failure, but it does induce way more fatigue. And so you're just digging yourself into a bigger hole by going to total failure that you can't, eventually you won't be able to get out of that hole. You won't be able to recover from. So we want to train to near failure. Also, the rep ranges that I'll be assigning on each exercise, rep ranges are, the thing with rep ranges is, it seems like, according to several studies, whether you did 2 reps or you did 15 reps, so long as you trained to near failure, the set was effective for muscle growth. So again, we always want to be training to near failure. If we do, set was effective. Now, there are 2 types of fatigue that we need to be considering: peripheral and central. So central fatigue is central nervous system fatigue. And you can think of this kind of like your entire body is fatiguing. We know this happens because we look at certain studies that will demonstrate where you perform an exercise makes a big difference for performance. So performing the squat first, you'll be able to lift more weight, get more reps than if you had performed the squat last. And that is even the case when you trained different body parts that have nothing to do with the squat. So again, that's an indication that the nervous system is what is fatiguing and not necessarily just the muscles. Then we also have peripheral fatigue, which is muscular fatigue. Now, so long as you are getting enough sleep and not training to total failure, central nervous system fatigue will not really be much of a problem. Peripheral fatigue is the primary thing we need to be concerned with, muscular fatigue, and that is why during the creation process, we want to count volume by muscle, because fatigue and muscle growth are both local processes. You can have fatigued biceps and totally fine triceps. You can have fatigued quads and totally fine hamstrings. This is also why I think outside of maybe power lifters, doing a full-on deload week is probably unnecessary for most people. Because again, you can have, fatigued or fatigued biceps, but you can still go train your triceps. Or you can have fatigued glutes, but you can still go hit some leg extensions. The natural next question is, how much volume is optimal? Well, this is a very challenging question to answer, and anybody who asserts that they have the golden number of volume for whatever, they're either being dishonest or they're ignorant as to the research, because this seems to be highly specific to the individual. Some people can tolerate tons of volume, like I would say I can. Other people just cannot. So there's an experimentation process that probably needs to happen for you to find the optimal amount, but there are a few things that we do know. So number one, there is a dose-response relationship with volume and muscle growth, meaning the higher the dose, the higher the response. The higher the volume, the more muscle growth. But we also know that the effect begins to peter off after a certain point. Now, where that point is, will depend on the individual. Second, volume per workout has an inverted U relationship. Now, this is primarily because of, again, central fatigue within the workout. You will significantly increase muscle growth up to a point, and then that point starts to drop off. Now, again, where that line is gonna vary between people, but it does seem like that number is somewhere between 3 and 5 sets per body part. And the third thing we know is that muscles can handle more or less volume based on their fiber typing. So slow twitch dominant muscles can handle a lot more volume because they fatigue much more slowly, and vice versa, fast twitch dominant muscles don't need nearly as much volume in order to see optimal growth. And this is another reason why program design should be considered on a muscle specific level. And one final detail before I get to my recommendation, this is a video for beginners, and beginners don't need nearly the amount of volume that advanced lifters need. So there's several studies showing that even down to the hormone response is blunted in advanced lifters. So the longer you've been lifting, the further you go, the harder it becomes to put on muscle, meaning you probably will need more and more volume as you go on. The level of stimulus needed for an untrained lifter is so low that they've measured significant muscle growth in people who are doing cycling. And of course, while cycling, there is some resistance. It's not gonna be anywhere near the amount of resistance that you're gonna get on a squat or a leg press or even a leg extension. So just goes to show you how low the level of stimulus is needed, how low the level of stimulus is for an untrained or beginner lifter. You don't need much. So my general recommendation for beginners is between 8 and 12 sets per body part per week. You don't have to do every body part. If there's a body part that you just don't care about, like most people don't train their forearms directly, for example, don't worry about it. For more slow twitch dominant muscles, I would err towards that 12 number. For more fast twitch, I would err towards that 8 number. Now, I'm not gonna get into specifics on which muscles are fast twitch, slow twitch, and right down the middle, because that would make this video even longer than it's about to be. But if you are curious, you can go to my muscle specific guides. I've hit every body part at this point, and it's gonna be over there or over there. I don't know, one of those places. How to find optimal volume in 3 steps. Keep a dedicated log of your strength numbers, and you can use the MuscleWiki tracker for this. Mainly the amount of reps and the weight that you got on your first set. I call this the benchmark set. If you are keeping up with your rest periods between sets, then you can more accurately rely on the rest of the sets. But if you're not keeping up with your rest periods and you rest 1 minute instead of 90 seconds instead of 2 minutes, then your following sets you're gonna get different amount of reps because of the difference in rest. So again, mainly focus on that first set. If you see increases in strength, then what you're doing is working. No need to change anything. Step 2, make sure you start on the low end of the set recommendation, so closer to 8. And if you notice that your strength is not improving, increase the sets. So let's say you time your rest periods and you got, you squatted 100 pounds and you got 10 reps, 8 reps, and 6 reps. The following week you got 10 reps, 8 reps, and 6 reps. You weren't able to increase. Go ahead and add another set. Try to get another 6 reps, maybe 5. And then when you come back the following week, see if that made the difference. If you're able to lift more after having added that 4th set, then keep it. If you were not able to get stronger after having added that 4th set, then there's probably something else going on. And with how chronically underslept many people are, I would bank on that being the reason. Also could be that you're not consuming enough calories, could be several reasons, but it's usually, in my experience, sleep. And quickly before we move on to frequency, you also can just add volume to test to see if you can tolerate it. That's totally fine. If you add more volume and you continue seeing strength improvements, great. If you add more volume and your strength starts to go the wrong direction or stagnates, then cut back on the volume. Next topic, frequency. A frequency refers to the amount of times that you train a body part over the course of a week. Now, most muscle growth circles still follow the bodybuilding split. You train chest one day, back another day, legs another day, shoulders and arms another day, and then each muscle or each muscle group gets a full week to recover. I'm gonna argue that this is absolutely not the best way to go. That is not to say, you know how people on the internet are, that's not to say that you won't make gains or you won't make progress if you use the bodybuilding split. The bodybuilding split has been working for decades now. It does work, but I would argue, especially for a natural lifter, there is a more optimal way to go. And luckily, we have a good amount of research on this topic. So Greg Nuckols and the good folks over at Stronger by Science, they compiled a lot of the data on frequency into this nifty little graph. And as you can see, the majority of the research favors higher frequencies. So training a muscle 2, 3, even some of these studies went as high as 4 or 5 times per week. The literature is pretty clear. Training a muscle multiple times per week is superior for muscle growth. Now, how many times per week? Just like with volume. How many times per week is best? Where that line is, I don't know exactly. I imagine this is, again, highly specific to the individual and will probably require some experimentation over the course of time for you to figure out what works best for you. And I'm speculating here, but I suspect the reason higher frequencies work better is for 2 key reasons. First, muscular fatigue within the session. So if you imagine you do a back day, you do a pull down, a dumbbell row, and a pullover. The amount of weight you're gonna be able to do on that second and third exercise is gonna go down because, like I said earlier, you're gonna be fatigued after having performed that first exercise. That muscle is going to be fatigued, and then on top of that, the central nervous system fatigue within the session is gonna start to set in. So the amount of volume you're gonna be able to do on the second and third exercises, or the tonnage you'll be able to do on the second and third exercises, is gonna go off a cliff. Whereas if you did on Monday, the pull down, and on Tuesday, the dumbbell row, and on Wednesday, the pullover, the amount of weight you're gonna be able to do on the row and the pullover is gonna be much higher. So the total tonnage that you'll be able to lift over the course of that week is going to be much higher than if you did it all in one day. My other suspicion as to why higher frequency functions better is muscle protein synthesis. So muscle protein synthesis is the signal for proteins to stimulate muscle growth. It's part of the start of the recovery process for muscle growth. Now, when you train a muscle 1 time per week, muscle protein synthesis begins, and it will usually, for a beginner, return to a baseline in roughly 72 hours, which means the recovery process is mostly done at about 72 hours. So you're good to train that muscle all over again. Whereas if you're doing a bodybuilding split, instead of training a muscle every 3 days, you're training a muscle every 7 days. In short, muscles don't need nearly as much rest as people think they do. Your muscles can, I promise you, handle a beating. It's your joints that can't handle a beating. So always stay conscious of your joints long term. Here are some of the other findings on the frequency topic in the literature. One group of researchers had 2 groups perform 6 sets of an exercise. One group did all 6 sets in one day. The other group did 2 sets over the course of 3 days. The 2 sets over the course of 3 days group reported that they had a much lower rate of perceived exertion than the 6 sets per day people, meaning they felt way less tired and fatigued after having trained than the 6 sets a day people. So not only will you be able to do more volume, but you'll be able to do it while not feeling absolutely wrecked when you walk out of the gym. Another study reported much less soreness in higher frequency groups than lower frequency groups, which is advantageous for obvious reasons. And before you ask, no, soreness is not connected with muscle growth. So the more sore you are, the more muscle you grow. That's not true. So really, we want to try to avoid soreness as best we can, and training with higher frequency and less volume per workout, less sets per workout, will let you keep going longer with less soreness. So you can get off the toilet in the morning, the day after squatting. We all want that. And finally, higher frequency trainees saw an improvement in their testosterone production and an improved testosterone cortisol ratio, which is beneficial for obvious reasons. So we return to the original question: how many times a week should I train a muscle? Again, it will vary from person to person. I would generally recommend at least twice per week for a beginner, at least twice per week. However, what I would do if I could talk to you, you beautiful human you, I would ask you, how many times per week can you go to the gym? And then reverse engineer from there. So if you can go to the gym 3 days a week, I would, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I would train your most important body parts on all 3 of those days with 3 to 5 sets, something like that. Your less important body parts on only 2 of those days. And again, the muscle recovery process for a beginner is over after 72 hours. So after roughly 72 hours, you're good to train a muscle all over again. And the other nice thing with frequency, higher frequency, is it lets you do much less per session. So you can do more work in 30 to 45 minutes because you're training multiple body parts that have nothing to do with one another, and get the work done and get out of the gym instead of spending an hour and a half just training chest or an hour and a half just training back. You can train chest, lats, quads, hamstrings, and calves in 45 minutes because you can put exercises for all of those different body parts together, superset or even giant set them. So it's also just way more efficient. Exercise selection. I won't go into a ton of detail here because, Jesus, I'm sweating. I won't go into a ton of detail here because, again, I don't want this video to get too long.
Are you sure about that?
But there are a few key concepts to consider when selecting your exercises. And as I said earlier, beginners have a very easy time building muscle. So you as a beginner, you don't need to scrutinize over every exercise. You can pretty much across the board just go with the basics, the classics, the ones that Arnold Schwarzenegger, well, most of the ones Arnold Schwarzenegger did. You can go with the ones the old school bodybuilders did, the classic push-ups, chin-ups, squats, deadlifts, rows, tricep push-downs, curls, calf raises, hamstring curls, all the basics. Go with the basics and you will be just fine. But here are the few of the general principles to consider. So first is compound versus isolation. Now, they both have their place, and I'm not really willing to say that one is inherently superior to the other, but compound exercises are generally going to be more efficient and a time saver. So if you can adequately train 2 or 3 muscles with one exercise, you should do that instead of doing isolation where you need 3 exercises for 3 muscles. It just takes way longer. So like your squat will do a good job of training your quads, your glutes, and your lower back. Whereas if you went with isolation, you'd have to do a leg extension, let's say a hip thrust, hypothetically, and a 45-degree lower back extension, taking triple the amount of time as if you had just done a squat. So that's the thing to think of. Now, of course, there are cases in which you have to use an isolation exercise. Like for your calves, you can't train the calves with a compound exercise. You need a calf raise, which is isolation. So yeah, free weights versus machines. Now this is one of the things I've amended my opinion on recently. I used to believe that free weights were automatically better than machines. And the argument most people make is, well, free weights use more of the stabilizer muscles. And while that may be the case, I'm not exactly sure what people mean when they say stabilizer muscles. Like, are you talking about the abs and the obliques? Or like what muscles are we talking about specifically? because technically speaking, every muscle functions as a stabilizer depending on the context. And when you squat, your hamstrings are a stabilizer. When you bicep curl, your tricep is a stabilizer. So I'm not exactly sure what people mean, but I get it, I guess. But a recent meta-analysis found no difference in muscle growth when comparing free weight exercise to a machine exercise. However, there was a significant difference in strength gain for the free weight people. So maybe that's the stabilizer concept or idea at play. Maybe, I don't know. But I suspect that free weights long term, because of the strength gain improvement, will win. But again, that does not mean that there's no place for machines. And people making fun of people who use machines exclusively, you need to stop it and do better. Let people do what they do. Relax. A lot of people are scared to hurt themselves and won't venture over towards the dumbbells and the barbells. They're comfortable on the machine. At least they're at the gym doing something. Leave those people alone. Muscle specificity is our final concept. Again, we want to select an exercise for each body part. Now, it seems pretty obvious, but I thought I should articulate it anyway. We want to train each muscle according to its function against resistance through the longest range of motion possible. And again, my general recommendation for you as a beginner, stick with the classic exercises. You cannot go wrong with pretty much any of them. Now, while I think a chin up is more effective than a row, again, for a beginner, a row will pack on muscle on your lats. You don't need to worry about all those kinds of concepts and debates and all that kind of stuff. And you may see on Instagram or in the gym people doing unique exercises or shiny exercises. If it looks fancy and complex, I'm gonna say it's most likely ineffective, and your time would be better spent just doing the standard version of whatever fancy exercise they're doing. Don't be distracted by all the shiny shit you're gonna see. A few more specifics before we get to the exercises. There really is no need to program exercises any differently, whether your goal is losing weight or building muscle. The difference between those two things is gonna be your food. The thing that optimizes a program for muscle growth will also optimize a program for body fat loss. And if you're curious about that, check out my cardio versus resistance training video where I go into a lot of detail on this. Next is injuries. So the biggest place where I would vary exercises for an individual, where I wouldn't just typically go with the classic exercises for a client, would be injuries. So if you've got a shoulder injury, barbell bench press is probably going to bother it. Or if you've got a knee injury, a leg extension machine might bother it. So consider your injuries and then again, reverse engineer from there. If you've got a joint that hurts when performing a particular exercise, don't do that exercise. The general rule of thumb here is let pain be the guide. If an exercise hurts your joint, try a different one. If that one hurts your joint, try a different one. If that one doesn't hurt your joint, double down on that one. All right, folks, here we go. Let's get to the program. We've got 3 workouts. And of course, we're starting on day 1. Here we go. So our first workout, we've got the squat supersetted with the rear delt fly or pull apart, calf raise machine supersetted with a single arm row, and seated hamstring curl supersetted with an overhead press or Arnold press. So here you've just got me barbell back squatting. I use a low bar, you can use high bar if that's more suitable. Just depends on the person. I squat with a wide stance. Again, don't take my form here to be exactly what it is that you need to do. And all the exercises I selected here are meant to be done in quick succession with one another, so you can stay in one place and get more done more quickly. So bring either a pair of dumbbells or a band over to the squat rack, perform your squats, rest a little bit, and then hit your rear delt move, whichever one you select. I'm doing a calf raise on this leg press machine. You can use a calf raise machine pictured here. I don't have one at the gym that I'm recording at, so I like to use the leg press machine for this. You can also use the 45-degree leg press. And then from there, whatever you're using, hop up, find something to put your off arm on, and perform your single arm row. Now, the closer you can get your torso to parallel with the ground on a row, the better. The longer the range of motion will be. But again, this is meant to be done relatively efficiently. So you can perform both of these exercises in one space and knock out your sets pretty quickly. Seated hamstring curl. Now, I prefer the seated hamstring curl because I can stretch my hamstrings, but you've also got the laying hamstring curl. Either one will be fine. Whatever your gym has, just pick one and stick with that over the course of this program. Bring your dumbbells over to the machine, and then once you finish your set, you'll hop up and we're gonna perform our overhead press or Arnold press. Arnold press is typically easier on the shoulder joint because of the rotation, but whichever one you prefer, you've got two options here and you can select the one you like. Moving on to day number 2. Here we go. So we've got incline bench press and incline curl. So again, we can do both of these exercises in one spot. You'll do your bench press, hop up, pull your bench, your adjustable bench up, and then perform your bicep curl. Nice and simple on these. Moving that bench up. Let your arms hang behind you, get a little more stretch in the bicep. Keep your upper arm in that fixed position, fully flex the elbow, and fully extend. Jesus, I'm sweating. Help me. Next, Romanian or stiff leg deadlift, whichever you prefer to call it. Please don't come for me. No, it's a stiff leg. No, it's look, relax. Make sure you keep a flat back and look for what feels like a stretch through your hamstrings on this exercise. And then from there, you'll walk over to a bench, or you should be able to bring a bench over to the rack, and we're gonna do a laying reverse fly. I'm keeping my shoulders internally rotated here just because the rear delt is better activated with an internally rotated shoulder. However, if that bothers your shoulder joint, just go externally rotated. Point your palms toward each other. Either way is fine. And then our final 2 exercises in this group, we've got the seated calf raise. I'm doing this on a Smith machine because the gym I was at didn't have a seated calf raise. So you can do this in the Smith machine if you don't have one. The dedicated seated calf raise machine is better if you have that. Go with that. And then, regardless of which one you're using, you'll hop up and we'll either hit a split squat or a Bulgarian split squat. For the Bulgarian split squat, just throw your foot up on whatever it was you were seated on, whether it was a box for the Smith machine or the pad that you sit on for the seated calf raise. And let's get to day number 3. Last one, folks, and we're out of here. Start with the little arms, overhead tricep extension. This can bother some people's shoulder joints, so for those of you, we've got the skull crusher as a second option. You can lay on the floor, point your elbows up toward the ceiling, let those dumbbells get close to the ground without touching, and then extend back up. And our second exercise is the pull-in. Now your lats go outward, their fibers go outward, so we want to have an exercise in which we're pulling in from 45 degrees so we get some shoulder abduction, which will train the lower fibers of the lats. You can also get abduction with a wide grip pull down. However, this pull in, because of the line of resistance, is probably better. Then next, we've got leg extension. I put my pad all the way back so I can get my quads into a more lengthened position. You can do it either way, whatever feels most comfortable. Make sure you get full extension, get a contraction in the quads, and stop just before those plates touch back down. And then once you finish your set there, I'm going full lateral raise here, where you go all the way overhead but you've also got the option of doing what I call the Bayesian lateral raise, where you lean forward slightly and perform your lateral raise. So we've got quads and lateral delts here. And then our final exercise to be done in the cable crossover. It can be a challenge to get into the cable crossover. Sometimes in gyms they get busy, but reverse fly. I like to have the cables all the way up because, again, your rear delt fibers go up at an angle. So to match that angle, we want to be pulling from upward as well. Make sure you squeeze your scapula together. We're going to move the cables downward. Man, I wish this guy would hurry up. And then we've got the pec fly. Again, I'm going internally rotated because the pecs are better activated with internal rotation of the shoulder joint. But if this bothers your shoulder joint, go externally rotated and that will be just as fine. And that's it, folks. I gotta go, it's getting hot in here, man. We're in the Caribbean and I have to turn the AC off in order for my mic to work properly. So I'm about to have a heat stroke, so I gotta go. Thank you for listening, watching, like, comment, subscribe. Please go check us out over on MuscleWiki.com. We got a lot of special features coming. Workout generator is on the way. And watch another video. There'll be 2 more videos up in the corners here for you in a second. I'm Coach Ty, and I will see you with the next one. Deuces.